Okay. All right, so if you want to establish the forum.
All right, 7:03. That Park and Rec Commission meeting on July 27th at the City Center in the community room. We're going to establish a forum, roll call.
So
You want to do this?
you people can just say they're here, or I'll say the name. Rich,
Here.
Lee,
Here.
Hoyerman,
Here.
Hanson,
Here.
a person, not here.
Excused with absence.
Yeah, well, there are no excuses, it just counts as a miss. For when we do attendance, it's just a miss. Okay, and I think, and Neil. Okay, so you have a quorum of 4.
And I want to note that Maxine Wells, the council, the mayor, and council liaison,
Yep,
is on via Zoom.
okay,
And
thank you.
all right, do we have any written communication?
We do not.
Hearing from citizens, is anyone on Zoom?
No one is on Zoom.
No one's here. No one's on. Minutes. We have recommendation to approve the June 15th regular meeting minutes. Did we just look at, anyone have any updates?
So let me, I'll pull them up very quickly. Here are the June minutes. Big thing to look at is who was present, make sure that is accurate.
Moved in second, I'll take a vote. All in favor of approving the minutes? Any opposed? Approved unanimously.
Great.
Director's report.
Director's report. So for the director's report, you have the printing in front of you. I'm not going to go through that. I'm just going to highlight that soccer, we have over 500 participants, which is a huge increase over the last 2 years. So that is fan-flippin-tastic. Over 500. Yes, it's terrific. It is absolutely terrific. The other thing I'm going to very quickly give you an update on is I have a couple things that are not in the director's report. And go to my share screen. And that is here. I'm going to show you the impacts of the storm. So we have, as you know, a flat roof on the community center. And the amount of rain completely overwhelmed the roof scuppers. So we had, very soon you'll see a hand to measure the water. So Ed Kastner took this video. Here's the depth. Yeah, it was pretty bad. So
I only can see little pieces of, I can't see them. I see little bitty film.
okay, what if I do, let's see if,
Don't worry.
okay. I don't know why it's doing this. Okay, oh, that's an image. So the other thing is I have another video to show you, this video. Okay, Maxine, I'm gonna try and do a full screen it. This is one of the drains, and you can see they're all clear, they're just not thinking. So then what happened because of that, this is what happened inside the gym, the hallways. We had for many hours multiple inches of rain because we discovered this at 6 a.m. We didn't get it all cleared out until almost noon. So we have closed the gym indefinitely. And It will probably remain closed until the building's torn down. When it's 100% dried out, we might be okay. We are reupholstering our banquet chairs for the new building, and they all got wet, so we're trying to dry those because we're only replacing the upholstery, not the cushions. So we're trying to avoid a mold situation. On a happy note, this is the new fire retention basin at Stacy, which people teased us about it being so big. But thankfully, it was excavated and the drains were installed, so it worked as it should. Now, the water had already come down, and this does not capture 100% of the water from the parking lot yet. So clearly, we did not overbuild this. So it will handle the increased capacity we're anticipating with the changes of our rainfall.
Can you give people a sense of where that is?
This is the front of the park. Old Bonham Road is behind the fence there. So this is right where those pine trees used to be. So it's been excavated and the soil's partially put in. So in the fall, this will be planted with plants and it'll be, look a lot more attractive. But right now, that is what it looks like. It's
going to be a native.
It's a native plant area. Yes. For some reason, I don't have a viewer on my new computer, so I have to open these in the editor. But you can see here. You can see this is Old Bonham Road here, and this is where the big storm inlet is, and that takes it to the storm drain. So all of this was captured and held back, but there was a time when it was flowing into the storm drain, and you can see this is where the water had been. I took this at 9 o'clock on Tuesday. Was that just yesterday?
I asked one question.
Sure.
Closed. Does that impact any programs?
It does. It does. So right now, summer camps can't use it for the rain. We canceled soccer camp this week. It's just too wet. We're looking for alternate dates for that.
We're trying to bring in a restoration.
The cost of that is pretty high. We have 2 days left of summer camp. So, yeah. One of our dance classes is using it, but when we do our update on the project, I'll tell you what we're going to do moving forward. Yeah. Yeah. I'm going to share my screen again and go back to Maxine. When I share this, can you let me know, do you see the agenda?
Yes,
Okay, great. Okay.
but the pictures are all just little thumbprints.
Even when I zoomed in?
Yeah,
I'm so sorry. Okay.
it's fine for me. I'm more concerned about what's being recorded if what showed up.
Right, right. Okay. That's all I have for director's report.
City council report. Mayor?
So I'm trying to think since our last meeting in June. Well, the highlight of this week was that the city council toured the property at Olive and Price with Greg Yowitz, and the wheels on that crane were almost as tall as us. It's pretty amazing to see it up close. So we walked through there with hard hats, and it was the city council with Carlos Trejo and Barb Sondag. And so what you see from the street is the parking garage, and then the space between the parking garage is going to be the outdoor, there's going to be like an outdoor workout area, and then what's going to be like a slab for the recreation area, and then an indoor gym. And then to the west is where the apartments are starting to go up. And we walked through a couple of the apartments on the first floor that were some of the 3 bedrooms. It's exciting. And then he showed us like the retaining basin where there will be a fountain, and that's going to be part of the gateway into Olivet. And as you all know, the Oliver is looking fabulous, and it's opening up, and before they have even gone, like people have not started moving in yet, but they're already at a 67% leasing capacity, which is pretty amazing. So, if we question the need for apartments in Olivet, and then Plant Haven, as you can see, they've been putting up like this little wall along the sidewalk this week. And they're getting ready to do their parking lot soon, and they'll be moving closer to the opening. And then last Friday, Fireside had their ribbon cutting, and they had people from all over the region. And so the regional director, which basically oversees Chicago, Indiana, and St. Louis, I was talking with her, and this is her 141st store. And the manager of our Firestone right here on the corner of Dealman and Olive, he's been 18 years with Firestone, and he's thrilled to be the manager in Olivet. Very personal young man, and he is really excited about the Veterans Fountain there. And so the fountain should be turned on hopefully in the next month. And then Olivet and Bloom will be back to start planting. They did the major landscaping, but Olivet and Bloom will be planting again, and a flagpole will be put in place there as well. So we're excited about that. And we've been moving on. We had an RFP out we're starting to work towards some of the goals that the city council set. And one of them that we set for is to start looking at doing some assessment and evaluation and looking at DEI within the community, within the businesses in the community, but really in order to do it, we want to do some education and kind of set up how we would look at that. And so we have we had some proposals that came in, and so we're reviewing them. And then the strategic plan from 2016, what's happening now is for this year, they're going to begin working with that, but that's also being moved to the name of a comprehensive plan. So you'll start hearing more about that as well. And it pretty much takes care of where we're at right now. We do have a couple openings. As you know, we have one on this commission, and we have another one. We have 2 other openings for commissions, and we're just getting in the applications, and hopefully by our next meeting, we will have done interviews and have that place filled as well. So we spend a lot of time talking about parks, and but I think Bev will fill us in on the update with the parks and the community center.
Do you need anything repeated? Were you able to hear everything?
Did you hear me?
Yeah, sorry, it's really low. We don't have a
Oh.
speaker. Yeah.
Okay, what do you want me to recite? Wait.
Well, I'll relay to you.
Okay. And one of the things I didn't. Pardon me?
Wait, Sue wants to know, did you make an announcement about the coffee shop? No, she did not.
No, I did not, because I didn't know if it was public, but then I heard from someone from Maryland Heights tonight that said we're getting the best coffee shop. So in the
What is it?
In the Starbucks, where Starbucks was on Olive, we're getting a place, and there's only one other one in St. Louis, and there's 7 in Kansas City, and it's called, I believe, Revacup, and it's Ethiopian coffee and pastries. And this gentleman came from Ethiopia, and he and his family started this coffee business.
That's fantastic.
They should be open.
It's called Revacup?
Yes, and
Revacup, Ethiopian coffee.
Revacup Cafe, I believe. And
that's fantastic.
They'll probably take them about 6 or 8 weeks to, fix up the area and get it up to speed and get it open. I think I heard closer to 2 months. But
okay.
I thought it was like, kind of on the down low, and then someone says to me tonight, right before this meeting.
You read on the internet.
So someone says to me tonight, "Oh my God, you're getting the coffee we have over in our neighborhood. It's the best." So,
okay, that's great.
We're very excited that we are finally getting a coffee shop back in Olivet.
Great. Rob, did you have a question? Do we know any Plant Haven tenants yet?
No, we do not.
No, we do not.
They may, but I don't.
Okay. Keisha, did you have a
What's the
question?
status on easy storage? That's what I first.
What's the status on easy storage?
So it's funny because I think Sue asked about that sign the other day. The new sign that is out there is more about the first floor tenants.
No. We want to know, when is the construction going to start?
But that's what that sign is, because some people thought that I guess my conversation with Sue the other day, when she was asking if they weren't starting. I was under the impression the other night that they are going to start hauling mud within the next month.
Hauling mud within the next month. Okay.
And that they are working with MSD currently.
Oh, they're working with MSD. Okay.
So,
All right. Well, that's good news.
so they're moving forward.
Okay.
I think
All right.
the pandemic and some other issues just really slowed them
Okay. They
down.
just had too many
But,
issues.
but they're back on.
They're back on track.
track.
Okay. That is great news. Okay. Any other questions? No? Okay. Was there anything you need repeated? No? Okay.
Everybody was up.
I didn't either. I didn't know that. Oh, everybody got reappointed last night.
Yeah.
Keisha and Bill? Okay, please. Okay, thanks.
I knew they got reappointed, but I know that we still have an opening.
There's still an opening. Okay, all right, cool. Okay, thank you.
You're nodding, so I thought you could hear me, but you guys sound muffled, and it could be because we're not in the chamber, and in the chamber, you have a microphone.
Oh, it's because we're using my laptop sound system, so I apologize.
Okay.
So I'll be really loud because I'm right here.
All right. Thanks, Mayor. PARC master plan implementation update.
Okay, so very quickly, because we're already at 7:20, I'm just going to very quickly touch on the community center. As we talked about last week, we finally got hit with all the slowdowns that everybody else is experiencing. So we are still looking at now opening in spring, not winter. And the big news is there was a contingency where more contingencies were allocated towards more soil remediation. There were change orders that were approved by the city council. We anticipate some more change orders will be coming. Primarily, or we've had some shifts to the foundation, we've had shifts to the steel, and shifts to electrical. So those who were, some have been approved, some are coming. If you want more detail, I can provide them for you once you get a chance to look through this. In order to keep the other parts of the project, oh, sorry, here's the photo. So this is the foundation, this first picture is the foundation of the park maintenance building, which is anticipated completion in October. This is the gym. Gym masonry is 100% up. The other parts of the building are steel, which is why the masonry went up first. This is the looped path around Warson Park. Asphalt, the gravel for that is in now since these pictures were taken. We anticipate the asphalt will be between the 5th and 8th of August. That'll be laid down. The plumbing and electrical and IT lines are going in before they lay the concrete down. They were anticipating doing concrete early next week. The site is completely flooded, so we may have some delays due to that. This portion here, this is the grading for the connection to the Gray Rivers Greenway from the upper side. And then this is another picture of the, that is the maintenance building from another perspective. Going back up here, the park components of Warson Park are to be completed once the current community center is torn down. So in order to tear down the community center, we have to do the asbestos abatement, then we can do the demolition. With the community center not opening until the spring, the initial plan was for staff to move out of the community center straight into the new community center and then demo it. But that would then push that park construction way out into the summer. So the project manager's recommendation is we start the remediation and the demolition before we move into the new community center. So what that means logistically, we can't move out of the new community center until the park maintenance building is completed. Then the park crews have a home to go into and all their equipment can go in. Right now we have all those temporary, storage units holding all the park gear. So once they move into that, into their new park operations building, and then we have the storage containers empty, then we can move things from the community center that are going to the new community center into those. And then the staff can move here to the city center. Right now, we're looking at moving the staff out at the end of October, which would allow us to then start the abatement in November and then demo in December. And then that means that as soon as they're able, they can start the construction of the splash pad and the grading and everything that's going to happen on the old community center site. I agreed to that move with the caveat that our programs could continue. So what that means is that we will move all of our existing programs into these rooms, which was actually helping us out. With the gym out of commission, that means our Friday night dance parties that Rochelle Walker puts on can come here. And she was here before the pandemic, so we are meeting individually with all the instructors within the next 2 weeks to give them that news because they don't know yet. So the staff is telling them gradually, we want to tell them in person rather than a mass email because we know they're going to have lots of questions. We have a divider wall here, so we will be able to have meetings on that side, like in the daytime when the quiet exercise classes are going on, but on certain nights, like when clogging's in here, we would not put 2 in here because it's a very good divider, but it's still not enough, and then they need space to move around. So that is what we're working on now. The staff will move to the upstairs conference room here, take that over, and it has all the IT and everything they need. We did look at Public Works, but the IT out at Public Works would be a problem because that's a very old building and we would really be taxing the system because everything we do is cloud-based. Our phones and everything come through the internet. So it's better here. Then we will have a service counter here as well, which is really nice. And then our facility attendants will also be here. So they will be able in the evening to work with all the students and anybody coming in. So that gives our continuity of service between construction and moving into a new building. So that actually means before we were going to have a hiatus for a couple of months. So this actually works nicely because now the classes can go straight from the old community center to here, and then from here straight into 5 Oaks on Worston without a gap. So that's very nice, particularly for our seniors. Excuse me, our 65 plus adult program. Then that taking us then through to, Maxine, if I click this now, do you see the parks dashboard? Okay, great. So the parks dashboard, parks are doing pretty well. You saw the Stacy big giant flood there. Indian Meadows, we were making tremendous progress there because it was so dry. Indian Meadows is never dry. We've had such a nice spell of dry weather that they got a lot done in there, which is great. It was a little messy with all this rain, but we're hoping because it was so dry coming into it that it's going to dry up quickly. I get a report on that next Wednesday. I'll know kind of where we are when we have our bi-weekly meeting with the park people. What we're looking at with the park construction is they're almost done pouring all the concrete at Stacy. So the new sidewalks were almost 100% in before the flood yesterday. They had one section still covered. I think, I can't remember if we talked at the last meeting or not, how we've changed our alignment of our driveway. So it lines up perfectly with the new driveway Old Bonham put in, which is really nice. So the crosswalks, everything will work in sync, which I'm really excited about. Then the pathways in there, the asphalt pathways are done. So what they're doing with the parking lots is moving from the back to the front so that the trucks will not go over everything once it's done so that we don't damage the new thing. The pavilion is coming in. they're going to put the pavilion down on the grass and dirt next to the pavilion instead of staging all those pieces out in the parking lot. That again will also protect the new asphalt, which is really exciting. They are really working hard to get that done. We'd like the parking lot open before soccer practice. That is iffy before the first soccer practices, but it'll be open before the first soccer game, which is really important. The restroom can reopen. So the games are, it's in your update. It's, yeah, the games begin the September 10th, weekend of September 10th. We definitely will have the parking lot open before that. Just when, I don't know, because I know Old Bonham School is really trying to get that out of us, and we're working as best as we can to get that going as soon as possible. And then, what else was I going to say? Oh, the planting we're going to do in the fall. We're going to not start planting until at least September, October, so that our plants have a really good chance of being established. Olivet and Bloom will start planting this fall as well in their gardens in there. So that's exciting. And then Villa had a little bit of a delay while we reconfigured the sidewalks in there. As they started doing the grading, it was discovered that we weren't meeting ADA in there. So we've reconfigured those sidewalks in there. At the next meeting, I'll bring you the diagram so you can see it once it's 100% finalized. But they're back in there doing all the plumbing for the splash pad and moving on that. So that's delayed Villa probably about 2 weeks. Other than that, Irvside's on schedule, and that demo will start at Irvside in the next 10 days. So that's all I have. 7:30 on the dot. Can I answer any questions?
Somebody asked me, currently there was an article on today's show or something about parks, water parks that aren't chlorinating water, that people are getting sick.
Yes.
They asked if we're chlorinating like the splash pads.
Well, our water is passed through, so there's no contained water. So a lot of splash pads are actual ponds. They work like a pond, and the kids sit in them and play in them. Ours, the water goes straight through. So our water that's going in there is tap water, potable water from Missouri American Water. So it is treated when it comes in there, and it will not sit. So it does meet the health requirements for the state of, for the county of St. Louis. Yeah. The other thing that does happen with splash pads also is when babies sit in the water with diapers, and that's why they need to be chlorinated. That can also happen in wet sand play areas. There can be E. coli contamination in wet sand play areas because of baby diapers. So none of our splash pads will have sand, and the splash pad, the water interactive play feature that we have at Indian Meadows is a stainless steel tray that they put their hands in. So that will also prevent E. coli contamination in there. And that's one of the reasons that, that those are constructed in that way. Yeah. Sure. Okay. That's all I have on that.
Very quickly, anybody, in terms of contingency, are we still reasonably healthy contingency still, or?
We still are in a healthy contingency. However, we will start eating into the remainder part of the contingency over the next couple of months as those change orders come in. I don't know the final numbers on that. They're working on that right now. We don't see anything that's going to put us over budget, but it's a good thing we had those healthy contingencies. And as Keisha pointed out months ago, she was right on the money. We are now, I think last month or 2 months ago, I told you about our electrical. So our electrical panel, 42-week production on that. So that electrical panel will be in, but back before the pandemic, those electrical panels would take like 3 months max. But 42 weeks is just incredible. And that's being built in the United States by Siemens. That's not coming from overseas. So it's similar. It makes me think, what they've been dealing with that intersection up on Lindbergh and Olive, waiting for the controller for the. So, all right.
Next agenda.
Yes.
Facility and days,
Yes.
so apparently there's recommendations for that.
Well, we have two things we're going to talk about. So the first thing is the council had their study session, work session on the fees, and they appreciated the information that the council provided them. They did make recommendations for higher fees. So I will bring those back to you. I'm going to send you a memo when they're going to look at it again. Maxine, what day are you looking at the fees?
At our work session next Wednesday. It's been postponed from Tuesday to Wednesday.
From Tuesday to Wednesday. Okay. So the main fees that they increased were the day use fees, went up by $1 and $2 on those. The family memberships, those the annual membership rate stayed the same, but those one-time uses went up. When I have that report done, I'll send it to you all, and you are all absolutely welcome to come to the work session and be part of the conversation. But ahead of that, you have been, also the security deposit raised as well. And then the hourly rates for the kitchen went up also. I apologize. I was so focused on getting you the second part of this that I did not type up these parts here, but I will absolutely send you that report. Let me get this ready here.
The date of the working session.
It's next Wednesday. What I'm going to try and do is do this without, how on earth do I do, hang on. There we go, got it. Okay, hang on. Let me now go back. I have a presentation for you that I want to get up correctly. Okay, share screen. All right, I'm going to share my screen again, Maxine, and this should be full screen.
Beautiful.
Okay. All right, and then let me do display settings and swap. There we go. Oh, nope. I don't want to do that. I need to go back to, there we go. Okay, now you're seeing the big one. I forgot so you're seeing the big one now, right? Okay, so at the last council meeting, was it the last council meeting? Oh, 2 council meetings ago, 8 residents or so came to speak to the city council from the Indian Meadows neighborhood. And they were talking about pavilion use at the Indian Meadows Park. And they're very unhappy with the fact that they don't know who's using the park. Some of them are actually under the misunderstanding that the park was private and belonged only to Indian Meadows residents. Some actually understand it's public, but they prefer it not be. But the main thing that they were talking about is the number of people using the pavilion. With the other pavilions closed, there's been pressure that's gone on to Indian Meadows because it's an available pavilion. So historically, there have been no reservations and no fees to use the Indian Meadows Pavilion because that wasn't what the council at the time when the pavilion was established did not want to do that. The trustees of the subdivision didn't want to do it either. With the complaints from the residents, the council has directed the Parks and Rec Commission to look at the use policies and task staff with coming with recommendations of how Indian Meadows could be managed the same way we manage the other pavilions, with the thought that if we have a reservation system for the pavilion, it can cap the number of users. It can also set time limits for the time that people are there, and it can take into consideration the fact that the pavilion doesn't have electricity and it's limited parking. So what I thought would be beneficial tonight is for me to take you through how the park reservation system operates, and then I have a recommendation in there as a starting point for a conversation with all of you about what we could do. So in all of that, we have pavilions at Indian Meadows, Irveside, Stacy, and Villa Park. Currently, this is currently how they operate. Stacy is open year-round, because it has year-round restrooms, so people can reserve it year-round. They tend not to in the deep winter months. However, during the pandemic, we did have reservations in really cold weather. The maximum capacity at Stacy Pavilion is 200. If you have over 150 people, it requires you do a damage deposit. It also has a surcharge on top of that. And you are also can request a special event permit there. And the special event permit allows you to have bounty houses, caterers, outside activities that we wouldn't allow at the other parks. The special event permit means that you work with city staff to have a layout of where your activities will be. It really helps staff meet the demands of having a larger number of people there, so that we can bring in either extra dumpsters or other things that are needed for an event of that size. Irvside Pavilion is reservable from April 15th to November 1, and those dates are the dates in which the restrooms are open. You can have 100 people maximum at Irvside Pavilion, and no special event permits are allowed there. So you cannot have a bouncy house there. You can't bring in a petting zoo or do those other activities that aren't compatible with the neighborhood park. Villa Pavilion is also reservable again from April 15th to November 1. It has a 50-person maximum, and we do not allow special event permits there. Currently at Indian Meadows, it's not reservable. It's first come, first serve only. There aren't any minimums and maximums, and we don't allow special event permits there. So the Stacy Pavilion is much larger.
I can't hear your question.
Oh, Sue asked, what's the difference in size? So between Villa and Irvside, Villa is a smaller pavilion. I don't have the square footages on here. Indian Meadows and Villa are about the same size. Stacy is the largest.
But the issue for Villa and Indian Meadows is the parking, not.
It is. I'll get to that. So yeah, Irvside, there's street parking at Irvside during the week, but on the weekend, we have a gentleman's agreement with Logo School, gentlewoman and gentleman's agreement, gentleperson's agreement, that we can use their parking lot. So that supports that 100-person capacity. Villa Park has a dedicated parking lot, which is supporting the 50 people there. Indian Meadows does not have a parking lot. It only has street parking and a very limited strip. So when you see my recommendation later, that takes that into consideration. In order to reserve a pavilion, well, first thing to understand is all park pavilions are free and available to use on a first come, first served basis. And it's important to note that because these are public parks. The paid reservations are offered to users to ensure that they have access on a specific date and time. So what we find is a lot of people use our pavilions during the week. And sometimes at Stacy, you'll have 2 groups in there at the same time, sometimes 3, because it's so big. Irvside, sometimes you'll have more than 1 group in there too, or sometimes there's parents having lunch with their kids or whatever's going on there. The paid reservations typically happen on the weekend, or if someone has a big company picnic during the week, they'll reserve it. And what that reservation does is it ensures you're the only one that can be there during that time. We post a sign up so that everybody knows that you're there during that time. The park crews put that out every day, that there's a reservation. It also means that we clean it and prep it before you get there. So your fees are really going towards that. Reservations can be made up to 1 year in advance, so 364 days. So what happens is, prior to the pandemic, we have, like, for example, the 2-lane crawfish boil that happens every year at Stacy Park. They have their event, and within a week, they come in and book it for the next year because they always have it that same weekend. And then we have families we have a family in town that every Labor Day and every Memorial Day, they book Villa Park. So they come in every year, like right after, and book it for the next year. So most people don't do that, but a lot of people book it 6 months out, 3 months out. What we typically find is, as we get through Martin Luther King, suddenly there's an uptick, And then the minute we have a sunny day in March, suddenly people start thinking summer and they're coming in booking. It's crazy how that happens, but it makes sense. People start thinking about the summer. Villa and Earthside can be booked online, or you can call and book over the phone, or you can come in person. Stacy Park, you can only book with a staff person. You cannot book it online. The reason we do that is there are so many more requests for Stacy, and so many people want to have special events there. We really want to know what's going on before someone books Stacy Park. Currently, this is our fee schedule. So Villa or Park are $30 for a half day, $70 for a full day for residents. Stacy Park is $60 for a half and $140 for residents. Now this shows 250 at Stacy. I believe with our new pavilion, we're going back down to 200. So I need to verify that. Our non-resident fees are significantly higher. We have predominantly residents use our parks. We did an assessment of that the last time we evaluated the fees. We have, I believe, 75% residents using our parks. Villa and Earthside are closer to 90% residents. Earthside has a lot of people that come in from those apartments right along the border. So that is kind of their neighborhood park. So those are U City residents. Stacy Park, we get a lot of people from Creve Coeur and businesses from the area. So Monsanto Bear used to be a big user of our pavilion, Danforth Center, a couple other companies in the area come in and use it. Then you can see if you have over 150 people at Stacy, we charge a lump sum fee. And then you're also required the refundable damage deposit. And then a special event fee is $100. So it can be quite a sizable fee to rent Stacy Park. However, it's still cheaper than renting a similar size pavilion in the county. So the county is the only agency that has the capacity that Stacy Park does. And that kind of fits with Stacy Park. If you remember from our park master plan, Stacy Park functions as a regional park, less like a neighborhood park. Okay, Indian Meadows Park. This is our newest pavilion until the Stacy Pavilion is completed. It's on the west end of the park. I put an aerial here so you can kind of see where it is. The aerial is important because the proximity of this pavilion to the neighbors is really something to take note of. It is not something that we would ever do today. It really is too close to the neighbors. Centennial Greenway will pass on the dotted line right behind it. With the Greenway, they're going to have a little pad there next to the restroom where they're putting in a drinking fountain, and then a bicycle. They have those little towers where you can have like a little tire gauge and a bicycle pump and a little wrench that are all tied into a unit so that you can work on your bike. There's on-street parking only. We have along here, can you see my cursor? Here, there's about, I want to say 200, more than 200, 250 linear feet of parking here. There are no electrical outlets in the pavilion. That was a request of the neighborhood when this pavilion was installed. And I have another picture of the pavilion on the next slide. So the recommendation that I'd like to start the conversation for you guys to review is that it be charged the same rate as Villa and Earthside, but due to the parking and the proximity to the home, limit it to 25 people maximum. And then have the same use time frame as Villa and Earthside, which is from April 15th to November 1. And then allow the online bookings or with staff, and then keep the prohibition of special events there. Without the power, you can't really, it limits what you can have there. You can't have the bouncy houses. And there just, if you go back and look at this aerial, there just is not the space for a bouncy house or any of those other types of events there. You absolutely can.
So this doesn't prevent someone from showing up 50 people.
It does not, but none of our parks does. Yeah,
So the maximum, if they reserve,
it's 25.
give them the max. But again, they could bring more than that.
They could, and that could happen at Villa, and that could happen at Earthside or Stacy as well. Well, our policy on that is unfortunately, we don't have staff members that go out there. We do not have that. We have contract cleaners that go out on the weekends in between rentals and clean them for the people that have paid. So if there is a problem, the council reiterated to the residents that spoke that if there are problems with parking or problems with things in the park, to call dispatch and ask for a police officer to come out. Maxine, did you hear Sue's question?
I couldn't hear it totally.
Okay, Sue was asking what would stop someone from having more than 25 people? And I said that we don't really have a mechanism for that. Similar to the other parks, we don't have a mechanism.
So I know, like, my parents' house backed up to Villa Park, and I know that when parties would get unruly, sometimes there were neighbors that would call the police, and they would come and they'd say, you have more than that count, you know. But I don't think that that we really have anything we can do about that, you know.
Right.
Unless it was an unruly situation. But it's basically also saying to the neighbors in Indian Meadows that if people show up and there's someone there, or there's a posting saying that this is reserved, that they'll know that the group can only be 25, because some of the complaints were that a group would show up because they thought it was the free park in Olivet to utilize, and they were showing up with groups of 50 and, you know, parking up and down and all over the streets, and it was a mess. So part of the reason that the city council wanted to bring it back to you guys is it's time to just be consistent within the community, and, you know, and have standards for all of our parks. So that's where that came from.
Did you guys hear that? No. Okay. So what Maxine was saying is that based on the complaints from the residents of having too many cars on the street and having too many people in the pavilion, that it was time to bring this pavilion in to the same consistency of the other pavilions, as a way to, it's really one of the only controls we have other than closing the park, because this is the way you can, people up front can reserve it and they can know ahead of time what the number is. Am I saying that right, Maxine?
Yes.
Okay.
It sounds like, and I agree, all bring Indian Meadows parking line with the rest of it, but it sounds like doing this really doesn't resolve the issues that the citizens have. You still have 500 people go to the park, they don't have a permit. I mean, do something.
Right.
This is our only control, so we're trying to do.
Yeah, this is really our only control. I mean, it's a public park. However, I mean, if something were going on that's illegal, so if 500 people came, then parking would be out of control, and then that triggers the police department to start ticketing and towing. Well, if they're blocking driveways or.
Parking?
No.
So it is literally just worse.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, but if you're not.
But if you're not, that's true. That's true. Yeah. Yeah. Yes.
Purposes. The other concern was they wanted a way to track who was in the park.
Right.
The reservations would give them that.
Yeah, the reservations would give us that. Yeah.
That would keep the statistics.
Yeah.
Reserving it when they're coming.
That's true. That's
So,
true.
I guess we need that need.
We do. That would say who's coming. Now, one thing that can happen is we never publicize that there is a pavilion in Indian Meadows Park. It's on our website, but when you look at pavilion reservations, it doesn't come up. Now, this year, with the other pavilions being closed, when people called and asked where can they go, staff did say, you can go to Indian Meadows Park. It's first come, first served. So probably there was an increase this year based on that. However, if we start advertising that you can book it there, and we advertise that it's 25 or less, it may move some of the smaller parties over there. Then once it's booked, then people know the rules. And so it may make it unattractive to people that are coming in without a reservation. they can't get in. So if there's when you get there and there's a group already there, then
And it shows up on the website. So
yeah.
if I go look at the website, I can see who rented it.
No, we don't tell people who, we put the sign up with the name of the person who's reserved it on the pavilion.
Right. But if I
We
go-
keep the stats.
If I go online
Yes,
and I see if the pavilion is available for next week, I can see that.
you can see that. Oh, I thought you meant, you can't see who's rented it.
No,
But you
I
can
wanna
see
know
it's
if
available. Yes,
So
yes.
that becomes public information.
yes, that's
It's
public
now
information.
not, it's first come, first served.
Correct.
And as to me, then stats when people come, we direct them.
We've been keeping that, and we've had probably, I would say, 10 or 15 since Stacy closed. So, yes.
What's that show at the time it's locked?
If you want to, if you're trying to reserve it, yes, it does. It shows you what's available and what's unavailable.
I need to sign off because I have multiple
Okay.
tonight.
Okay, Maxine.
But thank you everyone for being there, and I'm glad we got a quorum, and thanks Sue for taking out charge and leading.
Okay.
I'll see you all soon. Thanks.
Maxine said thank you for being here. She appreciates it. She has to go to her other meeting. Okay.
Last, there, the reason why we could post on that pylon right there, the capacity.
Yes, we can absolutely do that.
And
Yes,
it's a good faith effort.
it absolutely.
You know, just-
Right, we can absolutely do that. We've talked about doing that with our other pavilions. We've talked about doing that with Stacy. So I think it's a great idea. Yes. And the other thing, the police chief and I have been talking about this quite a bit. What we want to avoid is putting no parking signs around the park. We really want to avoid that because that's an inconvenience to the neighbors. Yeah. Yeah, they can't, if someone comes to visit, or if you just have more than 2 cars and you want to park a 3rd car in front of your own house. So, and then having permits and things like that, a lot of communities use it, but again, it's an inconvenience. So we'd prefer not to do that. But, that's always, if this became a huge ongoing issue, that is something that could be done. But in the meantime, what the police chief is recommending is that this is a great time as we start reopening our parks to remind everybody what are our park rules. What's allowed to happen in the park? What are their hours? How do you reserve them? So I think that's a great idea. So we're going to have a little bit of information in the September All Event Life to talk about that. But then we're doing an activity guide, our first one since the start of the pandemic. We're doing one that's going to come out midway through September to talk about where you find the staff here at the city center. The programs are moving here, and we're going to do a big section in there on park reopening and pavilion usage and things like that. So I think that was a great suggestion from the police chief. And then we will continue when the spring All Event Life comes out, we'll do again a big thing. Thinking about a summer picnic, now's your chance to reserve the pavilions. Here's the guidelines. Here's what you can do. Here's what you can't do.
How many tables are at?
It fluctuates dramatically. When Indian Meadows has their All Event Night Out, we move a bunch of tables over there. They typically want 30 tables for that. Yeah, we don't allow that normally because that far surpasses. So we will, if the commission supports the 25 capacity, we would remove any tables that go beyond that from under the pavilion. Well, they move around because they're not anchored, but there could be like 15 to 20 in there. Actually, you can get a good look here. This is
A lot of tables. There are a lot more tables than you can.
there's way more tables than there should be. And that's because of All Event Night Out, because they really like to have a lot of tables in there.
But I'm just thinking, if I was to go walking now,
Mhm.
how many tables?
I don't know, maybe 20. That would be my guess. I did not count the tables.
I guess my point in asking about the tables is that 20 tables and that's 25. It doesn't make.
Well, we will absolutely get those tables out of there.
I mean, with tables out there, that's all the other thing is, we need tables in the park, not necessarily at the pavilion. I mean, that's a huge.
Right, because, yeah,
What is the price?
well,
If, when we're done, we end up with 5 tables, you know, in the middle section of the park, and a few tables at the other end.
right.
Now, that doesn't stop people from physically picking up and moving them.
Well,
We
we're-
also-
So one of the things that people like about Stacy Park is that there are picnic tables that are not under the pavilion, they're under the trees, and people move them to follow the shade. So at Indian Meadows, we have this beautiful new section coming in, that's the neglected part of the park, where we're putting in the new playground. We're moving some of those picnic tables over there under the trees, so people will be able to move them around over there too. So the other thing that's gonna happen is having picnic tables over there is gonna take the pressure off the one by the restroom. But people will still have to go over there to use the restroom, but it's a short walk.
And is there any other park that doesn't
Well, right now Riverside doesn't have electricity. It does, but it will, because we're redoing it all. We had to redo it.
and then the size, I'm sorry.
Yeah. That's okay.
The size comparison again, says that Indian Meadow Pavilion is the same as Earthside.
It's smaller than Earthside. It's closer to Villa. Yeah, so this is the Indian Meadows Pavilion, and this is during all of it night out. You can see right now there's about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 tables here, and there's tables behind me. I took this picture. So this is probably 2015 or 2016, I think. This picture, it's kind of old. So it's wide, but it's short. If you come back to this, kind of gives you an idea. I don't think I can zoom in on this, but this is a more typical day. This is not during, so you see there's 2 openings here. This is roughly the same span as Indian Meadows. And if we go back to Indian Meadows, sorry, Earthside, sorry. So Earthside looks like it's triple, it's 3, and Indian Meadows is only 2. And then if I go to Villa is 4. So the span is roughly the same between those both. But if you want, I can actually, tomorrow I can get the square footages.
The reason I'm asking is about the cost.
Exactly.
Oh, the cost,
Okay.
okay.
Because why are we gonna charge twice? Why are we charging
Right,
half the people the same amount of money?
right. Well, the fees, when we originally set the fee, it was more to cover the cost of the staff time for the cleaning and for the reservation.
So it doesn't really, the capacity really doesn't impact the minimum fee of the minimum.
Right.
So it's gonna cost you the same
Yeah.
amount to set up the
But-
one versus the other.
Yeah,
So here's the problem. My gut reaction was, I don't like to see the same fee with less capacity.
mhm,
So if we can avoid that, so it doesn't look like it's not fair, unless we can provide the square footage. Okay, if you provide square footage, okay, I'd be okay with that, but if you're not providing square footage, I could see someone saying, it sounds like you're just tacking on a fee. You
Right,
just pick a
right.
number,
Because then if I go to Earthside and it's 100, I mean,
yeah. But look at but it's the same price. So,
but that's what I'm saying. It's the same.
right, but you see it's 50 and 100, they're the same price too.
Correct.
Yeah,
I mean, I
I mean, we had a discussion about that at the time.
yeah.
And so this just reiterates that same discussion, is shouldn't those either be more or Indian Meadows should be less?
So this is the starting point for the discussion. If you want to recommend less to the city council, you can.
Do you know what the real number of your cost is to maintain?
That's what I would do.
Well, I did when we originally set these. The first thing we did is we figured out the cost for the parks, then we figured out the cost of the community center. And the community center, the old community center, is $35 to turn on the lights and open the door. The pavilions themselves, we have the full-time staff cost. They clean it daily. And on the weekends, we have the contractors. They clean it once each day.
Has your cost gone up?
our cost has gone up considerably. So
Should we be slightly raising the cost of the other two parks?
without me doing a full cost analysis, I would have to go through and find out what's our direct operating cost to do it. You know, without charging overhead and depreciation, all that, what are we really paying? I would need to do that. And I can do that if you want me to do it.
What, I'm just gonna be blunt, what's the city's attitude as far as subsidizing? Right, so if we're paying more.
Well, this is subsidized. No matter what we do, it's we're never gonna make back the true cost.
I understand.
Yeah.
But what I'm saying is, what's the tolerance for a state of mind, the cost skyrocketing in general?
Yeah.
That we're not revisiting.
I don't know. That's a question for council. They'll probably talk about that at the work session. So, but these are good things. I will do the cost analysis. When we did this before, we eliminated full-time staff costs with the exception of the office software registration in that time. We did not put the park workers' time in it because whether we reserve it or not, they're going to be out there cleaning. They have to clean. Yeah.
One, is very different when you look at that price and what your costs were, versus what they are now. Whatever that variance is, should be counted.
Yeah.
We did that 4 years ago.
I think so, 4 or 5.
Was it $25 more? You know, whatever
Yeah.
it is, I think that.
Yeah.
And if the city council feels that that's not an issue to continue to subsidize it that rate, great.
Mm-hmm.
But I still think that maybe it should be more tiered.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So if without looking at the cost analysis, if we had a different tier, looking at this, what would your knee-jerk tier be?
I would say 3 different, that there be 4 fees.
4 feet.
One for Stacy, one for Indian Meadows, considering there's no electricity.
Right.
And then the other 2 together,
Okay.
kind of considering the fact, if you look at the park itself and what we're gonna end up with,
Right.
the pavilion may be smaller, but there's gonna be lots of stuff in the up, additional playgrounds, splash pads. et cetera.
Right. Right.
To bring it up. to
Right.
Kind of the level goes up. That's
Right.
my gut opinion. What we're doing in Indian Meadows is in a different section.
Correct.
Right.
And she said it's not really
Yeah.
going to, it's not gonna draw people who want to go to the pavilion
Right.
if they want that amenity. That amenity's not in the same spot.
Right. Plus, I mean,
But I think in Villa,
Yeah.
it's central.
Yeah.
Right? So the pavilion is like right in the middle, kind of. So they know we
yeah,
have
there's
stuff.
more amenities. Yeah, because the new amenities in Indian Meadows, you're right, they're further away. So would you be comfortable with a $20 or 25? What are you thinking?
My gut was $20.
20?
Because I think under $20 is not worth it, it's not worth $10.
Right.
Well, it's that minimum cost, you know,
Yeah.
if it's costing $50 to prep it.
I mean, my gut reaction is to make it, 25, 40, and 60. I mean, if you were asking me, I really thought.
So upping Villa and Earthside because they're going to be, because they're
$40.
getting improved to 40?
25, for Indian Meadows, and $60 for Steve. And that's without the numbers,
Now-
without the square footage.
Right.
That's my.
Now, the park amenities,
That.
yeah, the park amenities are improving at Villa and at Earthside. However, the pavilions are staying exactly the same and the restrooms are staying exactly the same. And they are, Yeah. yeah, but the pavilions are pretty run down.
Yeah.
Pretty, there, and the restrooms are pretty run down. Now Earthside has a new roof and they're doing the ceiling underneath that right now, the park crew is, so it's gonna look better, but it's still, I mean,
That goes to my other question.
yeah,
It's gonna attract people with the new amenities. And if they go on the website and they see that it's used, other people may be less likely to show up at that park on that particular day.
right,
And so those people are having access to whatever amenities in that park. And
right.
so it's not just, that's my
Mhm.
It's not just.
Okay.
These aren't cost recovery things.
They're not,
No, they're not.
they're not,
Subsidized.
But
they're
I'm
subsidized.
just trying to think, if I'm Joe Citizen.
Yeah.
What do I think is fair in proportion to the amenities and the facilities that I'm getting access to?
I am going
But one
to,
of you said the word I was going to talk about next is access. I mean,
Yeah.
any metal with the access to that park is not the same like anything else. Because for one, it's in the back of the subdivision, so you actually have to come in the subdivision. Or if you catch the new part off of West Side, is the name of the street.
The trail?
No, the street that runs
Oh.
through the trail.
Napoleon.
Napoleon. Then you can access that one part, but you're still not to the pavilion.
But I think the other thing is the trail's gonna run all the way through. And so you're gonna have people that are passing through. the
Right.
park.
But the trail, they'll be on bike or on foot, not on a car. So they're not likely to use the pavilion unless you
But
just
it's
sit
not
there.
like you can say, hey, we're having, little birthday party. If you come,
Yeah,
pull up,
But I,
like you could in any other park.
no, you can't, that's correct, yeah. I don't know why that is frozen up there, because I stopped the share, oh, I know why, it's because it's in prison. I'm trying to show you.
that people will bike that trail. I think that's the intent.
Right.
Running to the park is to have access to.
Well, they'll most likely use the restroom would be my, because it's not a trailhead, so we're not encouraging people that are visiting the trail to park there. There'll be no signage about that. Great Rivers Greenway is very sensitive to that. It's a pass through. It's from point A to point B. It's not to linger. But are you interested in seeing what the fees were before we raised them? Is that of interest? Because I can show you that if you want.
I remember.
Yeah.
It's good,
I don't know.
And if you want to show it, I'm assuming we're not making a decision today. If you want to share that, I know you. Get that offline.
Is that long?
Yeah.
So this is my presentation the last time we looked at that. So back then, you could only reserve the day after Martin Luther King. So people would camp out outside the community center. And the minute I saw that, I thought, this is ridiculous. It's so unfair. So unfair. What family can come in and stand in line on a weekday to book a pavilion for the summer? So that's one of the reasons I thought we needed to go to the 365. So this is the way it used to be.
Also, here, like you were talking about.
Yeah, 5, but they used to do it by capacity, and it was, $5 a person. They weren't renting it very often on the weekdays, so it's mostly the weekend. So $10 for Villa Park for the half day, $15 for the full day. Now, when the commission studied this, they sent a recommendation to council. Council upped it, and then it was released. And the staff expected that people would call and complain. The only people that complained were the big companies coming in. The residents did not complain, which
We're still lower than everyone else.
we are very low. Yeah, I don't know if we still are. I'd have to do a study of
So
that.
why did their drive
Because we looked at the parking. We looked at the logo school situation. It's the park we couldn't support it.
All right, so are you looking for us to give you?
I'd like a recommendation from you that I can, include in my staff report to council. So, what I heard from you, sure.
Make the recommendation tonight. So it's in time of their meeting.
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
But we don't have the additional data, so we just,
Well, you,
can we make a recommendation if you find something that really needs that out of whack?
mhm. Yeah, I can tell you, we can't discuss it over email because that's a serial meeting. If it's a huge change, I could call a special meeting if you want a special meeting.
Can we give two numbers for the recommendation?
Sure, absolutely.
You guys say that? If you give them something.
I think it's fine, especially with saying, you would base it on what costs are.
Yeah.
Without that.
And size.
Do you want it to be 100% cost recovery, or do you want it to be like
No.
50, or what are you thinking?
I think it's kind of how much it is. I hate to price out the average family because it costs the city $500, and I think the number I know is more than it is.
Right. Well, you'd be surprised. You look at trash bags, soap, you know, the contract cleaners. Contract cleaners are pricey. I don't think there was a percentage. I think it was more feel. We talked, yeah, contractors were an influence on it. The reason we went to contractors is we didn't have enough staff to cover weekends. And it was an undue hardship for them to come in. There's not much they can do when there's one person. You can't operate any machinery. They come back and do a second cleaning if we have two bookings. So they'll do all the parks once, but if there's a double booking, they'll come in between, and they've got to they go quick between. Sure. Yeah.
So can I make a proposal and see what people think? So what if we say, I can't remember. So what if we say for Indian Meadows, which is a farm, right, between $20 and $30, and Villa and Earthside, 30, or go up as high as 45?
Okay, I need to write this down. I apologize. I was reading it as you said it and not writing it down. Okay. So,
And that one is, so, 20 to 30 for Indian Meadows,
20 to 30 for Indian Meadows,
30 to 45 for Villa and Earthside.
30 to 45 for Villa
If we want to raise it.
and Earthside.
60 to 75. For the
Now, Stacy is going to be a brand new pavilion. Do you want to look at that?
So what do you guys think of those numbers? Sound a lot?
Are we expecting?
Yeah, we're giving them a.
I think basically 75 makes sense. Without knowing the costs, because everything there is going to be
Brand new.
so brand new.
But I don't know if the council's of the mind to raise the speed. That's the question.
Well, they're looking at all the fees, so
Yeah,
you
so
absolutely can.
Their workshop, they came in and decided to raise it higher. That's what they did last time, right?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I think if that's the case, I mean, I can see that on the, for the,
So we can
on the
recommend.
low side, and then maybe 150 for the, I'm okay with all the other numbers that you mentioned, with the exception of that 25. I think I should do this.
You want to change it?
Yeah, I think.
For 25 capacity, you want it to be $50? Indian Meadows $50?
No,
No, she wants to pass it in the Meadows.
Oh, to be 50.
She's not comfortable with the 25.
Oh,
Where does the 25, capacity 25, is that for the residents or is that?
that is for the parking. It's for parking. It's for the parking restrictions, because if you look at the only available parking at, is that, why is this not moving?
I remember it. I think, because
I mean, that's not even really that's not, I mean, you probably maybe 5 cars in that van, so I mean.
Well, so I think you get 10 cars.
How you do?
Yeah.
Because it goes all the way. I think it's a weird
But it's
So-
the angle,
It is,
I
you're right,
like that.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
But, you know,
So maybe 8 cars.
I'll make the comment I made, I think I made it to you, right? When we closed the parking at Stacy, people are still using Stacy, and people who don't walk to Stacy are still using Stacy. And they're parking on the public street. And one of the things that came up in that council meeting was the council clarifying that Indian Meadows are public streets.
Right,
So technically, anyone can park anywhere in the
Correct.
city of Olivet on a public street. So, I don't know, I might be, you know, if I'm going to the park, I might park on Yucca or Mesa and walk over.
the
You know,
other,
or park in
yeah.
someone's house or walk in the park.
right. The other thing I put in here that I think is important to note is the proximity to home.
Yeah.
That is a big one for me, because 25 people make a certain number decibel of voices, but 50, that's a significant increase. So I am concerned because I mean, it is right there. When you stand there, you are looking in those people's houses.
I mean, but quite honestly, unless we're going to give the park the subdivision, that's the, it's a public park.
Yeah,
So, I mean, it's a park.
I'll be
Okay.
the same
I mean, it's
way.
the same, it's different if you're on the other side, if it's grass side.
right,
You know, it's open and
Right.
the other way, but it's a park, it's a public
It's a public park.
You know,
Okay.
it's the same stipulations on it as the rest of the park.
Well,
I mean, you can't
And we
take
talked
this
about,
and leave that.
yeah.
how many meetings did we talk about moving the pavilion? And
To
moving
the-
that, right? So we
Yeah,
can
I mean, that's still in our vision to do that,
do that. So
right.
it's possible.
But remember, we also talked about putting parking in at the other side, and that was vehemently opposed by a lot of people. So, and then we proposed bringing in parking from the Napoleon side, and that was also vehemently opposed. No one can figure out where to put parking for this park.
Well, yeah,
It is a public
Yeah,
park,
you know, public street.
but again, it's a neighborhood park.
Well,
And so. I'm saying you can't have 75 to 100 people have a green space, just saying that you want that building. That's
What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna find the cost to operate,
and you're gonna find the side of that.
and I'm gonna measure the square footages.
Oddball question. If we try to limit it with the reservation of 25 people, are we pushing people to not get a reservation? I mean, something, because it's big enough to have more people than that. And they go, well, I can just show up and with 50, they all fit. I know there's 30 tables in front of me.
This is a multifaceted problem, right? And I just be blunt, I grew up in Alabama, right? So I was here in the 60s, 70s, moved away in the 80s and came back in 2006. They tried to keep that their private park, you know, everything they could do to sort of keep it that way. The reality is, it's a public park. There were proposals years ago to make parking in all different sorts of areas, and every time we talk about parking, they actually show up and oppose it, right? They opposed it when we wanted to put the parking down in the middle. They opposed it when we went to the point. I know they opposed it years ago when they wanted to put parking on the other side of Rock Island.
And have a
Right?
footbridge.
There was a proposal
Yeah.
to have a bridge. They came in force and knocked it down. I was in how that happened. So, I feel like the pavilion's there. I mean, it's where it is. And I guess I'm on both sides of this, because I also feel the argument is the people that own those houses aren't new residents. Right? They've been there, and if they moved out, the pavilion was there, so they know what is there. It's not like we're putting in a new pavilion or a bigger pavilion. I don't know which way to go. It's kind of
Yeah.
right in the middle.
Yeah.
I understand the argument. But I. Start putting in the equation and how close it is, or this and that. I think we're asking for. That's my.
Not agree, and I think the other piece with the sound is a lot of times sound comes from music, because we have no, so.
Right, that's true. There's a lot of sound that actually comes from the industrial park on the other side of the river.
And it sounds crazy. They're in violation of the noise ordinance in general. Right, it just, because that was one of the things they said, 9 o'clock, at 10 o'clock at night, you should play music from the college. That should be common sense. Right, to shut it down.
Right,
The noise ordinance kicks in,
right,
and the park's closed at dusk.
Yeah.
But there
And
shouldn't
o'clock
be- there shouldn't be
Right.
anyone in that park.
right. Yeah, and the police go there every morning and unlock it at 5 a.m. and they go every evening and lock it. So they walk through, they lock and unlock the restroom.
If we do some of this, maybe stir in the pot.
Well, I think it's important for me to actually measure the pavilion, and I think it's important for you to have that information. So I will do that tomorrow, and I'll send it to you.
And if there's something earth-shatteringly important.
And I'll take better pictures of the inside.
I do agree, though, I think that no matter what we do, with Indian Meadow.
You know,
I mean, I'm not trying to, I sit as a show.
yeah,
You can't solve it.
yeah,
We can't, like I
Yeah.
said, unless we just say, hey, we don't take this part back to the subdivision, and we don't, because any change is going to be problematic.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Well, technically, the land did come from the sun.
well, some of it did, some of it, so 2 parcels came from the subdivision. Some parcels the city acquired during their land grab, you could say. So it was acquired over time. Definitely part of it came from the subdivision. Then they did the land swap and purchase. The city purchased 2 pieces where we're doing the construction right now for the new playground. Those were purchased as offsets for the Saints ice skating rink to be built. I guess it was twin rinks first and then Saints. So in order to do that, we had to buy open space because that land at Warson had been acquired through the federal money that said it was going to be outdoor recreation. So that was an offset. So the city purchased that. So I believe this is the only area that may have come from the subdivision. But again, when all of these transactions happened, the subdivision trustees were also council members. So the city paid everything that they got. There was no like gift, like we give this to you. The city bought all the land there. They acquired all the land. Nothing was a gift from the subdivision. It was all purchased. So,
So we'll get material back, data back, and this group just.
we could meet by Zoom. We could do a quick Zoom call. Mhm.
That was on the website, available, and
Mhm.
at the prescribed fees until those fees.
Well, we can't do that. The fees have to be set by the council by ordinance, and there has to be 2 readings. So you're doing a recommendation, the council's gonna look at it at a study work session, then it has to be,
Right, what I'm
Yeah.
asking about, I'm saying about the question for this commission is, we recommend this, that goes on the website, that prescribed fees, so those fees can be
I can't do that. You can't do that. You can't say we're assigning these fees that the other parks have to this park. It has to absolutely be in the city's code.
Yeah,
But
right now,
I'm not saying we do that.
he's saying,
I'm saying we recommend.
Oh, you recommend it? Oh, I see what you're
You're
saying.
asking
Okay,
us for a recommendation.
yes, I apologize. Yeah. Yes,
Would be that this part go on the website like the others, that this part has.
yes, I see what you're saying. I see what you're saying. Okay, yes. So you're recommending, so if you look at this as division, so you're recommending this right here, okay. Okay? This is the one where you'd like to,
That's the one we're not.
that's when you're not in agreement on, and this one you're not in agreement on. And I can put, I can write your discussion that the council, that the commission discussed this, and they had, you know, they had a lot of thoughts about the equity of this. You know, it's the same, you know, it's absolutely the same as the others. Why isn't it 50?
And if we attend that workshop.
Yes, you guys can absolutely attend that workshop.
We have an opportunity.
Yes. You do. It's next Wednesday. Yeah. And I'll send you the agenda, I guess. I would assume so. I don't know. Sure.
Way back in the beginning, I think we were talking about one especially safety. You were saying that there were like 30 tables for the health night out and all that.
Mhm.
And I thought you said they won't be able to do that anymore. We're going to cap them.
Well, when all of that night out happens, they put way too many tables in there. You can't move between them. So a lot of times the tables they ask for are sitting outside. They won't fit under them. And they wanted them to all touch, and yet it's a total fire hazard. You cannot get in and out. People with limited mobility. This is not a bad, this one, it looks pretty good in there, but there have been years where, I mean, I would push back because they said, well, we want 50 tables. I'm like, you cannot have 50 tables.
But I
No, I was trying to say, so are we really going to earn any Meadows, like how many tables? I mean, it's more than we want, if we're not going to tell them.
Well, I will still move tables for all of it night out. If they're having a big party, I will move more tables. I just don't want them under the pavilion. Yeah, because it's just not, it's a bad experience for everybody involved. So, yeah, it's one night out of the year. Yeah, it's a huge labor for my staff to move the table. Yeah.
If you have to pick number one, what, for the capacity, you would say,
No, and I guess my thing is, you can't say on one hand, every day, 364 days a year, is max fee until I was at night out, we have 300 people and bring all the things. You know, so I mean, it's hard.
Yeah, because that's not a use in compliance.
I'm just, well,
Do you think they're going to have a big party this? Are you? Well, you're on the. Yeah, you're going to have. They're planning it. That's good because there's like pent up money to spend, right?
well, I know that there's a plan to have, there's a huge, and I think you can't have it both ways,
Right.
either way.
Yeah.
On the price, on the max, on the capacity,
Right.
you can't have it both ways.
Okay.
Either we get to have all the people we want, you know, when we want to have a party, or everybody.
that was kind of the theme, I think, of the presentation to the council. They were on both sides. They were saying one thing, and then they were saying no.
Well, the other. Yeah.
Which is it?
But I mean, I really think people, the only people within the subdivision, that utilize the park on a regular basis are the people that live right around
Yeah.
it.
One woman did come speak who actually lives way up at the beginning. She mentioned, I don't see the park, I live up here, and she came to speak. There was a gentleman that spoke who I've never seen before, and he said he'd lived in like 40 years, I think. And he said he doesn't feel safe sending his kids over there anymore. And thought, maybe he meant his grandkids. He said, I don't like them just going over there to play. It's like, well, Shouldn't you be with him? Yeah, because he didn't know the people that were there. And he's the one who said it's a private park. So the other thing they asked for is for us to take it off the map. We're not going to take it off the map.
The little park.
No, no, no.
Well, what
Pardon me?
they were trying to understand, in all fairness, these are people that don't understand technology. And they're concerned that when they go to Google and they put in nearest park, it shows up as Indian Meadows.
Yeah.
It doesn't show them all the other parts of the area.
It's because they're right across the street. Yeah.
Literally looks at your location, tells you the nearest park. And it's a public park. So
Yeah.
it shows up as one, Orson Park, I'm sure shows up as two,
Right.
and I'm sure Keene Park.
Yeah.
probably shows up
Yeah.
as three.
Yeah, because they've called me, and when some of the people that complain call me, they say, well, if I'm in Chicago and I Google Park, Indian Meadows comes up first. So that does tell me, Sue, you're right, that they don't understand how Google works.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Google directions the other night, and I was in Louisville or something, because the server that I was on was in Louisville. Right, so I got some part, I was looking for the nearest restaurant. And they happened to be on a network at a hospital. You probably can understand why. And their server was in another state. So, but the people I don't think understand. They don't understand that that's why they can.
Okay, but possible capital project for next year. How about webcamming these pavilions with cellular webcams as a possible capital project? Just leave it at that.
Well, I have some issues with
So how do we table that?
that. Yeah. That, we can absolutely talk about it on a future item. There's some logistical and ethical things,
Don't want to dig in.
but we can in future, because we are going to have cameras at the new community center. Against my recommendation, we're doing them. So, yeah, so,
Right, moving on.
yeah, no problem.
Do we need to vote on that recommendation?
Well, it's entirely up to you what you want to do, because this is what I have so far. One, I'm going to figure out the cost for operating direct. Two, I'm going to measure the square footages. I have heard a recommendation that Indian Meadows be between $20 and $30 with a cap of 50 people, but I know that's not been voted on. There's been a recommendation that Villa and Nerveside be charged between $30 and $45, and that Stacy be increased to $75. There was also a suggestion for Stacy to be increased to $100.
I would open to say as high as.
That's high, yeah. So a range between 75 and 100. Okay, and then in keeping parity between the parks, in consideration that Indian Meadows is a public park, 50 seems like a fair number for the capacity.
Just a question. So since Villa has capacity of up to 50, Indian Meadows will get up to 50. Should they be the same rate because it's the same number of people?
The difference was the amendment.
Yeah, and that's what
So
I
my
was.
argument was the location is the amendment.
Okay.
So when you're justifying it, that should be a point to the council, that we feel that the amenities and the location of that ability to choose those amenities warrant it.
Okay, I'm writing that down. Cost differential is based on the difference of amenities.
Like that.
If they got us
Available.
Yeah. All those extra amenities.
Yes, because eventually Irvine will have a splash pad, but it doesn't have it now, but it will in future. Yeah, and Villa's gonna have one.
I think the big one is no electricity.
No
That's
electricity.
a big difference. Because we're not paying for electrical costs. Right?
It also limits what you can do. It makes it less desirable.
So that's the other thing.
Yeah.
So they keep it direct to that part of it.
Okay,
And I think it also limits time of year, right?
Yeah.
You can get away with stuff later.
now what I can do is schedule a Zoom call for all of you next Tuesday, if you want. and you can look at the recommendation I'm going to present to the council, if you want to do that. If we post it, we can do it. It's totally legal. Yeah.
So based on your findings, I would say,
Yeah.
decide you need to do that.
Okay. And I'll send it out to you guys. Just read it, send me your comments individually, don't reply all. And then, absolutely, we can, if we were to do a Zoom on Tuesday, what time works for everybody? Yeah. Earlier, like we could do like 5 o'clock, 5:30? 6 is the earliest you could do? Okay. Is 6 okay for you, Rob?
But it's just gonna be that one.
Yeah.
Huh?
You say that now.
I am, yeah, because it's 8:30, because I said 50 minutes.
I'm failing my chair,
Great.
I don't think we have the annual work.
Oops, look what I did. How did I do that?
Yeah, I don't think there is.
I think it's not gonna be in our new binder.
Yeah, does anybody want to leave their binder with me? Okay.
You want the stuff in there?
You can take whatever you want out of it.
Here, I think
No.
my notes up here.
Make sure your name's on it somewhere.
I guess, I'm not sure where to do this, so I'll do it here in the commissioner report. I had somebody who's not a resident, but did attend one of our camps, or the son did, and then also attended another camp. At first was irritated, but then very thankful that we made the kids wear masks,
Oh,
because their son was here and had a great time. Then went to Burr Oak, I think it was,
Burrows, that's the Burrows camp.
and got COVID.
Oh.
So thankful that we had those policies in place that prevented it from happening. So let's hear that.
Yeah, I refunded a family because they were very irritated over the mask mandate. They came 1 week and then left. So I don't know if it was the same family, but we only had one complaint about the mask.
This person lived here and complained about everything, but was in the end happy that it happened.
Well, that is I will tell that to the staff as an anecdote, so I appreciate that. I meant to, it wasn't communication to the commission, but I'll share with you very quickly. We got an email through Facebook. Someone wrote to us a month ago saying that they were at Aquaport and they saw our camp there. And this year we made a requirement that on water days, the staff wear their staff shirts. We did that for a number of reasons, primarily one for equity, because the women are complaining that boys can be shirtless and we don't allow bikinis. So everybody's the same by wearing the shirt. We bought dry fit shirts this year. Also, 2, we haven't done field trips in 2 years. So we wanted everybody to know who the staff were. So a woman emailed us and said, I saw your camp at Aquaport and I wanted to tell you how wonderful your counselors were because they were playing with the kids, they were in the water with the kids, and I could tell who they were. I was so happy about that. We shared it with the staff and they were shocked. They're like, people know who we are? I'm like, yeah, people know. So it was very good. It was very good. And then particularly after the tragedy 2 weeks ago or a week ago at the Kennedy Community Center, the young man who drowned during summer camp. The 6-year-old died in the pool. Kennedy, yeah. County Park is the county camp at that community center. The county, they went in, swam, and all the leaders were there. All the lifeguards were there. It the worst case, horrible situation. Very upsetting. And then we reminded our staff why it's so important that we make them stay with the kids. And I can only imagine how horrible it is for all those camp staff. I mean, it's so horrible for the families, but those camp staff will take that the rest of their lives. I mean, that's just heartbreaking. It made me very happy we don't have a pool in our new community center. Yeah, we're just not big enough to survive something like that. It would be horrific. Then the superintendent for the county is new. He moved there he was the director in De Pere. He was hired during the pandemic by the county. So, I mean, it's just heartbreaking on so many levels. Anyway, I didn't want to end on a downer. So let's think about something happy.
All right, so the future agenda items,
Yes,
we're gonna address those in August. Or at
Yes.
least the time-
some of them, I mean, it's up to you.
Memorial.
You know, we've got, let's get down there.
I would say we're probably gonna do Park Memorial and Council discussion.
Well, if Park Memorial, you guys haven't met, do you want to meet? Who's on that committee? Working group? It was Ed and Keisha, Jim? Yeah. So I guess you and Jim could meet. You could meet, yeah.
If you can.
Yeah. Hey, this coming Saturday, it's Starry Nights at Worson Park. So if any of you go, I strongly encourage it. They bring out huge telescopes. So it
What are
is
the hours?
amazing. It's,
On the back page is
yeah, it's on your director's report. Yeah. Yeah. They bring out, so the last one we had at Stacy, we got to see the rings of Saturn. It was amazing. So I strongly recommend. People were tracking satellites. They have just amazing volunteers that come out, and we had a huge crowd, so I'm hoping we have a good crowd again. Make sure that you don't bring a big flashlight, or if you need to have a big flashlight, put a red covering, like a red balloon or a red piece of plastic or something on it, because you really need to get your eyes dilated. You can see really well in Worcester at night.
All right, anything else?
That's all I
that you
have.
want to call attention to? All right, so can I call for a motion to?
Well, no, you can't.
We have to motion.
One of you has to be the motion.
I'll do the motion to, return.
Okay, all right. So it is
I'll vote.
8:46.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? You're adjourned.
Hanson and Hoyerman, right?
Make a note. If you're gonna do it loud.